April the 30th, 1975. The last helicopters take off from the rooftop of the US Embassy in South Vietnam, as tanks and North Vietnamese troops were about to seize Saigon, which was subsequently renamed Ho Chi Minh City. This marked the official conclusion of one of the most protracted and harrowing wars in history. The world knows it as the Vietnam War, but the Vietnamese call it the National Defense War from America, or the American War. Over 4 decades have passed since that fateful day. Yet, the grievous aftermath of those events continues to cast a shadow over Vietnam to this day. The enduring consequences bear testament to the profound and lingering impacts of that period. The dilapidated house, hidden in a small recess in Ha Nam, a province in northern Vietnam, is where a family of 5 live. This family consists of a father, a mother, and their 3 sons. The father, Phuc Van Pan, 78, was one of the soldiers who fought with the American troops from 1963 to 1975. After the Vietnam War came to an end, Phuc immediately got married to a young woman named Nu Thi Pan, who worked as a teacher in the village. A year later, they welcomed their first son, Do Pan. Everything seemed normal and joyful. He had a healthy body, charming eyes that stole the hearts of his family, and he brought immense happiness to the household. Their happiness did not, however, last long. When Do reached the age of 6 months, his development had not progressed as expected. Unfortunately, at that time, medical advancements were lacking, especially in small towns like Ha Nam. It was almost impossible to diagnose the specific condition affecting their first child. 2 years later, their second son, Bin Pan, was born. He had a normal and healthy body just like their first child. He also faced similar developmental problems, though. Phuc and Nu decided to prioritize the care of their 2 disabled children before considering having more. After 6 years, they decided to take another chance, hoping for a child who would be physically and mentally healthy. Their hopes for a miraculous outcome were not realized. Their third son, Quan Pan, couldn't escape the consequences of exposure to chemicals used during the war. Externally, the bodies of all 3 children appeared normal. It was evident, however, that their movements, perception and reactions were slow and hindered. This is just a glimpse into the lives of victims affected by the chemical agents used in the war.
Báo cáo là thái độ chúng tôi là cũng rất lo, rất là buồn và cũng mong làm sao là chữa được cho các cháu, nhưng cái khả năng này thực sự là không làm được. Cho nên chúng tôi bảo thế thử lần 2 xem nó có vấn đề gì không, nhưng mà càng thử thì càng thất bại. Thế cuối cùng là chúng tôi chịu một cái hậu quả ghê gớm như vậy như hiện nay.
Guerrilla warfare was one of the tactics employed against the South Vietnamese and American forces, leading to victory for the North. Having fewer troops and outdated weaponry, the North Vietnamese couldn't engage in direct confrontations. They relied on their strong spirit, endurance and guerrilla tactics, hiding in the dense forests and launching swift surprise attacks, before disappearing into the wilderness like phantoms. The South Vietnamese and Americans relied on air support when they were disadvantaged in ground combat. The thick and impenetrable jungles of Vietnam, however, made it impossible for aircraft to get a clear view of their targets, rendering airstrikes less effective. This led to the implementation of Operation Ranch Hand by the US military, with the aim of destroying enemy hiding places using chemical agents to defoliate entire forests. Monsanto, a major American manufacturer of herbicides, was tasked with producing the required chemical agents for the military.
If you want to see more great content from all over the world, please like the video, subscribe to our channel and hit the bell icon. Thank you.
The most harmful chemical agent used was called Agent Orange, named after the orange-coloured stripe on the 200-litre barrels in which it was stored. Planes and helicopters sprayed this dangerous chemical over the lush green land of Vietnam, targeting both forests to prevent hiding and farmland to destroy food sources. The defoliation resulted in trees dying, turning the once vibrant forests into dry, lifeless brown landscapes. It wasn't just the trees that suffered. People also became victims of these chemicals. Agent Orange was a mixture of highly toxic herbicides, specifically phenoxyherbicides, consisting of 2,4-D and 2,4,5-T. The most harmful component of Agent Orange was dioxin, which is toxic to the immune system, damaging soft tissues in the respiratory and digestive systems, as well as the liver and skin. It had adverse effects on pregnant women, causing miscarriages and birth defects, as well as neurological disorders like autism, as seen in the three sons of Phuc and Nu. Because of their abnormalities, even at an advanced age, they continue to live in their small house without anyone getting married or starting a family. Even though they were born with disabilities and came from a financially challenged family, they continue to persevere in life. While the mother wore a constant smile, the sorrow in her eyes couldn't be concealed. When asked about the difficulties of raising all three children for over 40 years, tears welled up, providing a clear answer, without the need for words.
Buồn lắm, buồn không có cái gì buồn bằng về tinh thần. Tôi nói thật, các cháu nó như thế này tôi không lúc nào là lúc tôi vui vẻ cả. Mặc dù là tôi sinh các cháu ra tôi vẫn phải chăm chúng nó, cho nên đừng như mọi người.
Every day, the mother still has to cook and feed everyone. The flames from the stove rose as she lit the firewood. While the mother cooked, her sons helped with simple tasks, like picking vegetables and cutting meat. Once everything is ready, the family sit together in a circle, eating their meal in silence, following the traditional Vietnamese custom. Nowadays, the father earns extra income from beekeeping and selling beehives, with his son assisting him in uncomplicated tasks. This small, humble house is quiet. Everyone speaks little, and the parents remain calm and peaceful all the time, even when discussing what caused the abnormalities in their three children. They simply live day by day, accepting what happens without complaining or blaming anyone.
Tôi thì tôi nghĩ thế này, thực ra mà nói thì đây chẳng qua là những cái số nó cực đoan hiếu chiến, chứ còn nhân dân Mỹ thì tôi nghĩ là họ cũng không nghĩ về cái việc này. Chắc là chỉ có một cái lực lượng nào đó nó cực đoan, nó hiếu chiến, nó muốn tiêu diệt dân tộc mình thôi. Chứ còn nhân dân Mỹ với chúng ta thì có lẽ là họ cũng tốt như tất cả mọi người thôi. Thế thì tôi nghĩ là cũng không bao giờ chúng tôi nghĩ đến cái hận thù.
The parents, who are elderly and unsure of when they will pass on, face the difficult question of how their three children, who are unable to care for themselves fully, will continue their lives. All three sons have innocent smiles. Despite reaching an age by which they should have matured, they remain childlike. The developmental progress of their bodies has been hindered by exposure to chemicals, severely limiting their opportunities in life.
Người Mỹ thì những người dân Mỹ thì rất tốt, nhưng mà những thằng mà nó giải chất đồng ở da cam ấy thì nó phải chịu trách nhiệm. hậu quả lo cho những thằng gây ra, thì cũng phải giúp đỡ những người nạn, những người chất độc màu da cam và nạn nhân chất độc màu da cam.
The walls of this house have been built with bricks, but it has not been properly rendered with cement yet. Regardless of the reasons, it remains unfinished and incomplete. It's no different from the people inside the house, who may be alive but are incomplete. They're fragmented, and there seems to be no way for them to become complete. Time has faded some of the ink on these certificates hanging on the wall of the house, but all the vivid memories remain clear to Sergeant Pham Thich, who's a veteran soldier. The identification cards are still carefully preserved, even though they've endured the hardships of war.
Tôi nhớ như là cái năm mà nó đánh phá ở ngoài Hải Phòng, đầu tiên nó ra miền Bắc nó đánh Hải Phòng, thế là tôi đi, nhưng mà năm đầu tiên là năm 60 mấy đấy.
Pham Thich has lost one of his legs and has also been diagnosed with colon cancer.
Không chỉ đã vào trong nó giải chất độc da cam thì nhiều lần lắm, nhưng có biết đâu là chất độc da cam đâu, chỉ có tưởng là giải để mà nó giải để cho lá cây rụng xuống, để cho nó quang, để cho nó đi đường thế này, để cho nó mình khỏi phục kích, chứ có biết đâu là chất độc da cam thế này đâu, không biết.
The cancer is a result of exposure to chemicals during Pham Thich's time in the battlefield. The scars from the surgery are clearly visible on his abdomen. Epidemiological studies have found a link between exposure to dioxin and various diseases, including cancer. It infiltrates the human body through the respiratory system and skin. Although there have been numerous studies and research into the use of chemical agents during the Vietnam War, there is no exact figure for the amount of chemicals used. Much of the usage was undocumented. The disclosed figures indicate that at least 19 million gallons were sprayed from 20,000 flights. Chemical agents were dispersed over 20,000 square kilometres of land. The precise number of individuals affected by these chemicals also remains uncertain. Chemical agents didn't differentiate between the northern or southern Vietnamese soldiers, and their impact extended beyond vegetation. They had immediate detrimental effects on the health of those exposed, and their presence persisted in the bloodstream, contaminating the soil, water and the environment for an incalculable period. Research conducted by Columbia University estimated that around 4.8 million Vietnamese citizens, including over 1 million northern and southern soldiers, were affected, along with American veterans, who also had potential exposure to the chemicals. It's been more than 40 years, but the scars remain clearly evident. Despite the loss of a limb and battling cancer, both Pham Thich and his spouse don't harbour anger or bitterness towards the opposing side, nor do they mourn their own fate. They perceive what happened as something beyond their control. It occurred, has passed, and they continue to live with it. Enjoying a hot cup of tea while watching various TV programmes together, or being outside the house to breathe in the fresh air with his life partner pushing the wheelchair, these are the simple joys that Pham and his spouse have chosen in their twilight years. Dioxin, a highly toxic component in Agent Orange, has a long lifespan and is difficult to dissolve. When it contaminates the environment, it accumulates in plants and animals, which then become part of the food chain. The World Health Organization categorizes dioxin as a highly toxic carcinogenic substance, with toxicity levels up to 200,000 times higher than DDT. Even today, more than 3 million people in Vietnam continue to experience the impacts of Agent Orange. Vietnamese Victims of Agent Orange, or VAVA, is an organisation established in 2004 to assist and support the victims of Agent Orange. In addition to its main office in Hanoi, it has subsidiary offices in various provinces where the victims of this harmful chemical reside. VAVA provides financial and healthcare assistance to those victims. The primary objective of VAVA is, however, to seek compensation from the United States and Monsanto for the damage and suffering caused.
Hội nạn nhân chất độc da cam dioxin Việt Nam là một tổ chức từ thiện nhân đạo được thành lập từ năm 2004 với hai cái nhiệm vụ. Nhiệm vụ thứ nhất là huy động các cái nguồn lực để giúp đỡ nạn nhân chất độc da cam dioxin Việt Nam. Nhiệm vụ thứ hai là tập hợp nạn nhân lại để tiến hành đấu tranh đòi công lý cho nạn nhân chất độc da cam.
VAVA has made 3 attempts to file a lawsuit in the US Supreme Court since it was established 14 years ago. The cases were, however, dismissed, and they lost the lawsuits due to the fact that VAVA is not a US corporation and the victims are not US citizens. Furthermore, they were unable to prove the use of dangerous chemicals as weapons during the war, or the connection between Agent Orange and various health problems. In 2018, it seemed that there might be a glimmer of light at the end of the tunnel for the people of Vietnam. A court in California ruled in favour of one American groundkeeper who sued Monsanto, claiming that its herbicide was the cause of cancer in humans. This was after he used hundreds of gallons of the herbicide to maintain the school playing fields where he worked, and later contracted lymphoma. A jury in California found Monsanto guilty and ordered them to compensate the farmer with $289 million. But the amount was later reduced to $78 million by the judge. VAVA sees this victory by the American groundkeeper as a positive outcome, which could have implications for future legal action against Monsanto. The ruling sets a precedent for holding Monsanto accountable and compensating victims harmed by Agent Orange. VAVA is determined to continue advocating for justice on behalf of the Vietnamese victims until the very end.
Từ năm 2004 thì VAVA cũng đã tiến hành một cái vụ kiện các 36 cái công ty hóa chất Mỹ. Và vụ kiện đó thì cũng đã được gửi đến tòa án Mỹ. Và đến năm 2009 thì họ trả lời là họ không thụ lý cái hồ sơ của nạn nhân chất độc da cam Việt Nam với lý do rằng họ cho rằng là cái chất độc da cam nó không độc hại, là chất diệt cỏ.
For the Vietnamese people themselves, while the majority of the victims who spoke to us may not express anger towards the United States for its heinous actions and their lasting consequences, what they deeply lament are the missed opportunities for their own country, Vietnam.